What is the best loophole that you've ever found? I didn't find this loophole, but my friend did. A few years back, an online store had this promotion where whoever spent the most money over a month would get free round-trip airplane tickets to anywhere in the world. My friend, who's a fucking genius, found that one thing you could buy on the site was a gift certificate. So he bought a $25 gift certificate and kept spending it on another $25 gift certificate. So he ended up spending $25 on round-trip tickets to Australia. My brother once yelled, "Last one to jump in the pool is gay," and then jumped into the pool. However, I figured out that if I did not jump in, then technically he would be the last one in the pool. And he is still gay to this day. I used to work at Papa John's to pay my way through college. There was a contest we had where if you got someone to upsize their pizza from like a medium to a large for an extra $2, you got points towards movie tickets. Large was simply $2 extra normally anyways. Anyone that ordered a large, I simply put in a medium and upsized it. I won every fucking week. My coworkers didn't notice this obvious loophole and it didn't cost the customer extra, so I didn't have a problem with this morally gray area. Free movie tickets every week was a huge in college. Back in 2013, Papa John's had a promo for the Super Bowl where if you called the coin toss correctly, you would get a voucher for a free one-topping pizza. However, the only control in place was you could only enter the contest one time per email address. I created more than 60 emails. Half of them calling heads, half tails. Ate free for 6 weeks. Yep, I've done similar with various promotions. I own a bunch of domains for work, so I can just create as many emails as I want instantly, which show up as valid business addresses as well. Then when I'm done, I just delete them. So I really don't care if they get sold to spam companies or whatever. My high school had a stupid rule that banned you from attending prom if you went to a Saturday detention that semester. I got in trouble and was assigned to Sat D Hall. But my girlfriend really wanted to go to prom. I just kept skipping it and they kept adding more until they rolled it into a day of actual suspension. They had no rule barring you from prom for an out of school suspension, so I got a day off and took my girl to prom. My brother got free parking for pretty much his entire time at university. It was that golden period when the pay parking kiosks were able to accept credit cards. But before they were actually connected, they'd read a card and check it against a locally stored list of band numbers. And once a month the meter maid would download the transactions, process them, and update the blacklist. My brother found that they'd accept those prepaid gift cards if they were backed by Visa or MasterCard, but couldn't check the available balance. So he'd buy one, use the balance up on whatever, then use the card for parking until the end of the month when it'd get processed. Found to not have funds. And banned. Rinse and repeat. Guy saved probably $2,500 over his degree. Edit. Y'all can stop telling me this is illegal. I don't give a flying fuck and you are far from the first to say so. When I was in high school, I applied for a summer job with the county. As part of the unbiased application process, each applicant was asked to take an intelligence test. The test consisted of about 80 questions. Each question was 4 or 5 line drawings. And you had to put an X in the box next to the one that didn't belong. Pretty easy. I happened to notice, though, that the test paper was 2-part, which is 2 sheets of paper that are attached together back to back with a sheet of carbon paper in between. I could peel the sheets apart and look inside. The second sheet just had a bunch of boxes printed on it. And I could see from the first few questions that I'd answered that the X's I'd marked ended up in the printed boxes on the second sheet thanks to the carbon paper. So, I did all of the questions with obvious answers. And if I was unsure, I just peeled the paper apart, noted where the box was printed on the second sheet, and made sure I got it right. Of course, I got 100%. I figure that if you can cheat on an intelligence test, you're pretty smart. of Michigan used to have a law that a minor could not plead guilty to a crime without a lawyer. I found this out by accident when I was 13 and used it 3 more times before I was an adult. What happens is that I as a minor would just plead guilty. They would then give me a sentencing date and let me leave. Then a week or so later I would get a letter stating that it is not legal for me to plead guilty without a lawyer and my case was dismissed. Or thrown out because of it. I got out of 3 minor in possession tickets that way. This is way too far down. Takes a lot of balls to pull this off. It sounds like it, but in reality, I figured pleading guilty was my best bet anyways, since I could not afford an attorney and they would not give me one because I owned a car and could use it as collateral. After the first time, I would have pleaded guilty anyways, but I went in knowing this could happen. I think I got lucky is all. Yeah. I gamed the system a little, but it was never guaranteed. I was working maintenance at McDonald's when they did a Best Buy Bucks promotion. Large sodas and large fries had a scratch off that was worth at least $1 at Best Buy. I would go through the trash daily, pulling out all the discarded scratch offs. I got a free computer that year for Christmas. I also had the poor cashier at Best Buy in tears. She had to manually scan each scratch off and verify the dollar amount. My university was trying to encourage people to walk, so if we download a specific health tracker that's connected to our account, it would convert steps into points. The points would get you stuff like free coffee, mugs, discounts for stuff, and the most expensive prize, a university hoodie which costs about a cute $30. Now, the health tracking app is pretty basic. It won't let you log your steps manually, however it does let you connect with other health apps. I found a health app that would let me add in the steps and I logged in an equivalent of 50 kilometers a day, and in a few days of logging manually, I would get myself a hoodie or 2 and I didn't get caught. However, I told my friend about it, and he really perfected the method of getting more steps a day. Because apparently there was a hidden physical limit to how far a person can walk in a day. But he managed to trick it by setting his height to be 1 centimeter, and because the shorter you are, the more steps you need to take to cover the same distance. In the end he claimed about 10 plus hoodies and he would just get them for anyone who asks. The uni found it suspicious, so he received an email telling that the activity had to stop unless he could provide evidence that he walked that much. Another friend had a different method. You get points just by being friends with them on the university health website. He also found that he could access a list of everyone who had an account in that website. So he made a Python script that would automatically send a request to everyone, earning him points. For a while McDonald's had a promo where, when you walked in, you could scan a QR code and possibly get free food. However, different locations and different cutouts had different codes. I took pics of as many unique codes I could find, put them all on a handy PDF, and scanned them all using an Android device and an iOS device before lunch. I got free extra value meals regularly. In fact, I still had a couple free ones left over when they stopped the promotion. Our local Tesco accidentally had 2 offers for Terry's chocolate orange at once. So if you bought 4, or a multiple of 4, they gave you 50p. Tried not to abuse it, since if they notice they change it. But bought 4 chocolate oranges with other stuff through the self-checkout every day for almost 2 weeks before they corrected it. Planned to save them for Christmas presents, but Christmas was 4 months away. And you know how delicious Terry's chocolate oranges are. Edit. To all non-Brits out there, since apparently they're not sold elsewhere. They're fucking delicious. If you ever come to England, do yourself a favor and buy one. Or find a foreign confectionery shop and hope they sell them there. Took a survey course in college, which basically amounted to a course the school was planning to offer in the future, but giving the professor an opportunity to fine-tune the curriculum before officially offering it as a class. Easy enough course. Got my credit. Went home happy. Next semester the course went live and was offered under a different course number, but the description was identical. Signed up. Never attended a class. Took the final and got my credit again. Was it the same professor? Did he/she not care? Same professor. But the first class was maybe 15 students, while the second class was more like 150. If she was going to recognize my name in a list that long, with anonymized grading, then cross-reference that with last semester's survey course, well, then she deserved to catch me. Back in the 1960s, the school district in my hometown was broken up and absorbed into the surrounding districts. Fast forward to 2003. I'm applying to colleges. I discovered that there is a scholarship fund for people living in that old district's area. The district is gone, but the scholarship still exists. I applied and got the scholarship. I don't think there were any other applicants. Back in the day, 2 5-piece chicken nuggets at Burger King cost less than a single 8-piece chicken nuggets. Me and those 2 extra nuggets were laughing all the way to the piggy bank. Italian restaurant my family loves had a candy claw machine we played every time we went. But the trick to learn was, if the claw closed all the way it thought that meant you didn't get anything, and would let you play till you did get something. This means we would go for individual items that would fit into the claw perfectly, one sucker, one Laffy Taffy, so it would close all the way, instead of trying to get a big lot all at once. That way it wouldn't register the candy and we could keep going and going. We actually took so long once our parents made us leave before our turn was up and we still left with handfuls of candy. The best part? IT only cost a quarter. They no longer have that machine. Open bracket. Went to a Catholic school with uniforms. We got Jeans Day passes to wear. They were always different colors, including white. I took one white pass. Took it to a copier, copied enough to fit one page. Printed one full page of passes, then printed mass stacks of pages. I made a lot of money selling them out. My school had a reward system for good grades behavior called swag bucks. At the end of each quarter you could trade them in for prizes, movie posters, dollar store toys. I think the biggest prize was a Wii. They were just a heavy stock red paper with a Times New Roman font on them. My mom worked for a printing company at the time and I printed a ream of them. I made a bit of money selling them to other kids, but shortly after I hatched this genius plan the school banned them because we were playing poker with the fake money. Teacher found out when one very misbehaved student had enough bucks for a Wii and some DVDs after pulling straight D's. My dad figured out a good one back in the 80s. Just like they do now. Back then cable companies would give you a free weekend trial of a premium channel, HBO, Cinemax, etc. in an effort to get more people to sign up for those channels and pay more. However, our cable company's method of giving you access to the special channel was to send a signal to your cable box which unlocked the channel. To turn off the channel at the end of the free trial, another signal was sent. My dad figured out that the signal to lock it was only sent for a short period of time. So before the end of the free weekend, he would unplug the cable box and then plug it back up the next day. Since the box never got the signal, we would have a free premium channel for a while. Usually after a month or two it would get shut off, so we'd have to wait for the next free trial weekend. Not very impressive, but at my high school we had to wear a button down and a tie to class every day. One of the kids realized that they never specified what kind of button down it had to be, so he wore a Hawaiian shirt to class with a tie. Technically it met the dress code, so it stuck. Pretty soon most of the school started wearing Hawaiian shirts with ties to class. We looked like a bunch of ridiculous Jimmy Buffett Goes Mormon types, but it was worth it to spite the system. They changed the rule to ban Hawaiian shirts a week later. They used to have a promotion at Wendy's, probably 6 or 7 years ago, where if you filled a survey out on your receipt you could get free burger. I guess they didn't notice that you could take the survey on the receipt of the free burger and just keep getting free ones. So we would just go after school and chain 5 free burgers after we just bought one. We did that for a few days until they finally caught on and stopped accepting it. In 3rd grade, our teacher had to leave the room for some kind of emergency and left one of the students in charge, the teacher's pet. Of course, the teacher said that we were not allowed to talk, and if we did, We would have to write 100 times. I will not talk in class when instructed not to. Or something like that. Well, my friend and I were bored. So we started writing out the punishment. And when we were finished, proceeded to talk to each other until the teacher returned. The student left in charge wasn't sure what to do. It was hilarious. Old job had a loophole about time. It worked as such. If you were scheduled for 8 AM shift, you had 7 minutes to arrive and be on time. If you arrived past the 7 minutes, you were considered 15 minutes late. Loophole. It worked the same for clocking out. If you stayed and helped for an extra 7 minutes and clocked out, you got an extra 15 minutes of pay. During my tenure there, I would always ask if people needed extra help and make sure I stayed past the 7 minutes. This went on for a full year. Got probably close to an extra 24 hours of pay. Used to have a job that had quarter-hour systems, but didn't like paying overtime if they didn't have to. So I'd constantly get stuck on a call at the end of my shift, but managed to get out at the 7, 8, or 9 after mark. Because they didn't like OT. I'd be kicked out about an hour early most Fridays. I'd have to do some stuff to avoid it being obvious. But spending about 30 minutes extra the first 4 days of the week to get out an hour early on Friday was worth it. I purchased a wireless keyboard at least 8 years ago. Maybe 10. It's awesome. Except I broke one of the keys about 2 years later. So I contacted the manufacturer to see about just buying a replacement control key because it's awesome, and I thought just the key would be cheap. But they said it's still under warranty and they sent me a replacement. About 2 or 3 years later, a similar thing happens and I'm all set to throw down $$ for a replacement. But the replacement keyboard's warranty time started when they sent me that one. So I wound up with a replacement for my replacement. This just kept going on. I'm currently on my 3rd or 4th replacement keyboard. I've lost count. Over the years, the design of the keyboard has improved so much. The current one is not at all identical to the original K800 I purchased. But it's still a fantastic keyboard. If they would ever give me an opportunity to buy a replacement, I would. Close bracket. My former workplace would tell us every Monday that we had to work overtime Saturday. Then often cancel overtime at the last minute. That way they didn't have to give us the minimum 24 hours notice of mandatory overtime, and they could take as long as they wanted to decide if they needed us. They also got to play it off like they were doing us a favor by giving us our weekend back. It was a DCK move, but it was certainly effective. When I was a kid, my town had a slow bike race tournament. So the objective was to cross the finish line in last place. The key is to keep your balance. Well, the rules stated that each time your foot hit the ground you would have 5 seconds subtracted from your time. But it didn't say anything about keeping your foot planted on the ground. So once the race started, I just stood there and waited until everyone else finished. Waited a good 5 seconds after that. Then just rode across the finish line. Ultimately they didn't let me win, which I think is horseshit because they wrote TTY rules and a 12-year-old found a loophole. When Presto Card first came out in Toronto, the swipe card that gets you onto public transit, the card I got was faulty from the moment I bought it. It loaded it with cash, but 9 times out of 10 it wouldn't scan. The transit operators would see me curse and swear at it and let me through the gates anyway. Then I'd pick up a transfer which passed as my proof of payment. I must have done that a good 30 times over the course of 2 months. Saved myself $100 or so on transit. Didn't want to push my luck too much, so eventually replaced the card with a working one. I still use the loophole of jumping on a shuttle bus out of Lax to a parking garage or hotel. Yes, and then calling an Uber Lyft from there to avoid the airport prices. Brings the ride home down to $10 from $40. My college campus had a cafe with deli and salad bar. The deli sandwiches were way overpriced. Like $8 for a standard turkey sandwich. But the salad bar was very reasonable. Subsidized to promote healthy eating. So I found that the salad bar had all the same ingredients as the sandwiches. The meat was just shredded. The deli would sell slices of bread for $0, 25 each. So I would just buy the bread, load up and weigh my salad, and grab some free mayo and mustard packets. Then build my own sandwiches for under $2. Use that trick for my last 2 years. There were old codes on baseball cards you could put into the website towards the PS Vita, so I bought a set of like 5,000 codes online to start inputting for like $20. Figured even if it's fake and I lose $20, it's not a big deal for a $200 value. Full stop. Full stop. There was a max allowance per day of how many you could input, which sucked. Full stop. Full stop. But it also struck me as odd that this person had all the codes that were indeed working. Full stop. Full stop. As if the codes weren't unique or random or one-time use. They were one-time use per account. I never did input enough codes for a PS Vita, but I did make a few $100 on eBay selling the codes for $30 over and over again. I've got a good one. A friend of mine takes time to read the fine print on all sweepstakes deals. Anyways, he was able to find a nice loophole with an airline deal through Hertz Car Rental. The deal basically gave you 10k frequent flyer points for X airline every time you rented a car from Hertz. So this guy, using a Hertz Gold card that allowed him to skip the line, check out a car, and drop it off without interacting with anyone, e.g. like scanning into a building or kiosk instead of speaking with a doorman, took a week or two off work to run this quick play. He took a sedan from Hertz A, drove 5 miles to Hertz B, dropped it off, picked up another car from Hertz B, drove back to Hertz A, dropped it off, picked up another car. Rinse and repeat. He earned a few million miles with the airline and hasn't paid for a ticket since. He'll be flying first class for the rest of his life. I believe he only paid $5 per Hertz trip. Genius.